Hi there, YouTube. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. Let's go grab our friends over on Twitch, the Twitchers, the Twitcheroos. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm your host, Bill Little. It is a Thursday night, as usual. We are on the 6th of February, 2025. Can you believe it? Thank you for the cool shirt. I've got a whole line of these babies. I'm trying to kind of up the look, So most of these are retro shirts, they look kind of like from the 50s. But I don't know. I just saw this on a Facebook scroll and I just liked it, so I got a couple like it. So they're bright and colorful, and they add a kind of a zip to things. So we're gonna be seeing more of those in the future, I reckon. Let me just get my window set up here. It has been yet another amazing week in the realm of Gondor. I was texting back and forth with Jeremy Boring, and he said, Can you believe the world we're living in?" I said, "It's like I feel like Aragorn watching the fall of Barad-dûr." That's exactly what it feels like. And I'm not sick of winning yet either. So it's an amazing time, and it's kind of great to be alive, great to be American, and this is happening around the world. If they just haven't completely caught up yet. And to be honest with you, Argentina led the way. I've forgotten his name now. That libertarian president of theirs, he was doing this stuff a year ago or something. And was just, kicking butt. So let me brighten it up just a wee bit, and we should be good to go. Just add a little. There we go. All right. Okay. So yes, Javier Milei, afuera, technically it means into the fire. All these agencies he was when he was running, he was just basically at like a dry erase board with all the different bureaus and agencies in Argentina, and he just peeled them off. Afuera, afuera, afuera. Lady Hawk says executive orders and executive actions and all that stuff can be undone too easily. They can be, but right now, use them and then lock them in with legislation. I get the feeling, and it's usually, who knows, right? We're so far away, all kinds of things could happen. But the world is being reshaped so quickly, and the Democrats are showing no indications at all of having learned any of the lessons of 2024, that I'm actually thinking, contrary to the usual trends, that 2026, the off-year elections, could be finally like a red landslide. Because I think by then, people see a much, much, much better planet. Honestly, the guy's been in office for 2 weeks, 3 maybe. And if this was all he accomplished, I would say, C plus. But it's just happening so fast and all across the board. Everything's connected to everything else. I thought that finding the corruption in U.S. aid would be like a way to say, hey, look at all this money we're wasting. But it turns out it's like, not only look at all this money we're wasting, but look at all this money that has been keeping these leftist institutions alive. $8 million to Politico, BBC, 8% of their, was it 8% of their total revenue? Or, this man is on track to be. Thank you very much. Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka corrected my Spanish. Afuera means out. Al fuego would mean into the fire. Yes, correct. It is out. It's out. My bad. So there's room on Rushmore, and Chelsea. Who's Chelsea? But anyway, yeah, American taxpayers have been for decades now. We've been paying our tax money to organizations that hate America and promote anti-American messages around the world. Chelsea Clinton got $80 million. Come on. That number. This is relatively new. Hang on. I got to see that again. I just scrolled up. $80 million. I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. People are asking to see the rest of the shirt. I have to do a brief fashion show in just a moment. I'm just very pleased with them. So it's basically, kind of groovy. Got this, a lot of color there. And I like the turquoise. I bought 20 of them. Like I said, probably more than half are kind of retro, but there you go. It's really kind of unbelievable what's happening and how fast it's happening. A link for the shirt. Oh, gosh, hang on. Of their funding, not their revenue. That's what I meant to say. Technically they don't have revenue, right? They're a state-run agency. It's called 11 Oasis. So we got some kind of retro ones like this, kind of cool. And then just crazy wild color ones. Like, it's basically the same shirt, but that's orange! Orange! You hear me? So, and I got a bunch of kind of old school ones. The bright ones are from a place called 11 Oasis. And it's 11oasis.com. So tell them Bill Whittle sent you, and you'll get a 0% discount, and I will receive absolutely no money. I love it too, Sean. Thank you very much. It's just cool. And all the patterns are great. So now I got to warn you, I was hoping this would be like a cotton shirt. It's not. It's real thin, almost like an acrylic. Feels a bit like satin. And it's a print. I was actually hoping, of course, in my naivete, that it would be embroidered cotton. But in any event, it looks good on camera. So just let you be warned about that. Wow, $80 million to Chelsea Clinton. Now, Roadrunner points out there is a deal going. If you use Bill's name when you order, if you buy one, you can get the second one for the same price. Yeah, it's bitchin' polyester. That's exactly what it is. It is bitchin' polyester, and I just saw them, and I just they're like, I don't know, $26, something like that. And I wanted to do something to change up the look, especially for story mechanics. The wall has been stripped of the posters, and the screen is down and all that stuff. The paint is here. I'm painting tomorrow. So thank you very much for the kind words. So I am prepped to go. We'll get that baby rolling. Wear this to a car show. Thank you. You're all very kind. Appreciate the kind comments. I just wish I was sitting back further so you could see the cool embroidery. 50s feel on 70s fabric. Yeah, exactly. This is triple knit polyester. It's imported directly from the Philippines. Let me just give myself a square inch of headroom here. Nope. What the hell happened? I had to give Gorn some headroom. Hair is less chaotic today because it's been raining. Been walking out in the rain, so I'm a little rained down. Anyway, it's been an astonishing time to be alive. Tonight after the show, I'm putting up my right angle, which is called the Negotiator, and basically this went up before the Gaza Strip announcement. I'd like to get some feedback on that, on the Gaza thing. Because what I was arguing basically in the Negotiator was this is the primary skill that a chief executive should have is negotiation. And when you've got the biggest organization in the world in terms of money, it'd be the United States government, then it'd be nice if you had somebody who knew how to wield that power. So my argument in the negotiator is, for the right angle, is that Trump wrote a book called The Art of the Deal, and it's actually very simple, and you'd be surprised. Well, I'm not surprised, because the left is incapable of learning anything, especially when it comes to the right. But all these people running around, you're going to invade Greenland, and you're going to invade Panama, and you're going to take the canal back by force. And Trump says, well, if we got the article in the, I hope it doesn't come to that. We need the resources. I hope it doesn't come to that. So what Trump is doing is he understands that if he wants $1 million, he asks for 5, and if you're bluffing straight, really good at it, if you're really good at your negotiation, they may just give you 5, but he expects to be walked down to 2.5 or 3. He'll settle for 1, but he'll never have to go that low. He wants the 1, so he asks for 5, and so this is what he did with Panama. This is what he did with Canada. It's what he did with Mexico. He put a tariff on Mexican and Canadian products, and half an hour later, both Canada and Mexico are saying, we're going to deploy 10,000 troops to our side of the border in order to stop the flow of fentanyl and other illegals into the United States. We're happy to do it. It's like, oh, okay. And then he's got the genius, you see. He's got the genius to not say, well, in that case, I'm going to lift the tariffs. Then he says, well, in that case, I'll suspend the tariffs for 30 days. Let's see if you're serious, or are you just giving us the lip service that we've always accepted in the last 50 years of my life? Oh, we'll do that. And instead of them stopping illegals, they're going to give them some kind of a wristband before they send them over. That kind of a compliance sort of thing. So I have to tell you, when I saw him there with Netanyahu and he said America's going to take over the Gaza Strip, my first thought was, that's insane. And then immediately I went back to hold on. This is what he's saying. This is not necessarily what he intends. This is his opening position, and I tried to break that down because I could see a lot of trouble with us getting involved in rebuilding Gaza. It's expensive, and terrorism and all the rest of this stuff. And so what I ended up with regard to Gaza is, I think this was designed to break the moral back of Hamas and put an end to the great Palestinian hope. They've been told for 80 years now that the keys to the houses that they still have are still there waiting for them, and all they have to do is make sure that they never surrender, that they keep insisting on the right to return. And as long as it was the Palestinians versus Israel, there was the convenience of having the Jews to hate, and they were right there, and they knew that Israel has a certain size economy, certain size military. And so basically, Hamas has, and the Palestinians deserve full condemnation for this. Palestinians have backed Hamas. They're as responsible for this stuff. I mean, it's not like Hamas is ruling over them. They're 80-90% popularity. But I think it's also probably fair to say they haven't been presented with a whole lot of better choices. And what I think Trump did there was he said, America's going to develop the Gaza Strip. I think it must have made them just go, if America moves into Gaza and builds it into a tourist paradise, because there are fabulous beaches there. It's not far from Lebanon. Beirut my mom spent a lot of time in Beirut before Islam came along. She said it was the most beautiful place she'd ever seen back in the 50s. And so I think what it's done is it's basically said, we don't, to the Palestinians, we not only have to kick out the Jews now, we have to kick out America. They can talk about from the river to the sea all they want to, but they're not making America go away. And for him to just come in and make that statement, and by the way, this is the genius of it, not say, hey, we're going to come in and occupy Palestine, Gaza Strip. We're not going to come in and occupy it. We're not going to come in and keep this thing, rubble. He says we're going to come in and develop. We're going to make the people who live in Gaza rich. And Netanyahu's there going, that sounds great to me. Sounds great. And all of a sudden, the dynamic is completely changed. It's going to be a theme park. It's going to be it's going to be Gaza Land. It's going to be the fourth Disney park. And he has changed the equation by saying that we're not just going to continue with aid to Israel, or we're not going or Israel's going to rebuild, or Israel's going to occupy. No, Israel's not going to occupy it. They hate the Jews. No, it's not going to be Israel. We're going to put hotels in there. You could see the faces of the reporters. A couple of them were just literally open mouthed, and the ones that weren't were, well, what about the millions of displaced people who live there? There's nothing but rubble there. There's no place to live anymore. It's just rubble. We're just going to rebuild the rubble into something nice. What do you say to that? God damn you. How dare you come in here and turn the rubble into luxury, affordable apartments? How dare you come in and turn this this bleak, barren wasteland of death and destruction into a paradise that'll make you all rich? It was a great piece of negotiation. It's his opening move, because once I heard it, it's like, man, I remember the Lebanon occupation when our Marines were killed over there. There's nothing they'd rather do than blow up a bunch of Americans. But I don't think it's going to come to that. Darth Chuck the Merciless points out something interesting. He says the first step is to bulldoze it. That's right. You can't put up these lovely luxury apartments and condominiums and hotels unless you bulldoze it. And if you're going to bulldoze it, then you find out where all the tunnels are. And you just have to fill those in, because if you're going to put in a 20-story hotel here, you got to have a solid foundation. You can't have all those tunnels running around under there. So basically what he's done is he has basically said to the Palestinians, it is not going to be your land. It's not going to be. So you might as well either get over it or move to Jordan. Of course, Jordan won't take them, and Syria won't take them, and Egypt won't take them. He's basically saying to them, no, get over it. And the brass that it takes for that is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And so can I get a channel in YouTube says the place is a war-torn battle zone, which is why I didn't want to go in there. But then it's like, but we're not going to have to go in there. You see, he's made it. He's changed the meta of it. He's completely changed the equation. The equation always was, could the Palestinians defy the Israelis? Now it's like, no. That point, it's a moot point. You don't have to defy the Israelis. Israelis are going to have nothing to do with this. America's going to come in here. We're going to turn this into a lovely place. You're going to love it. It's going to be huge. The best hotels, the buffets. You won't believe the buffets. Beautiful architecture, the most beautiful in the world. It's genius. It's genius, and it has the additional benefit of making the left go completely bat guano crazy. And this was a thing I pointed out also on the right angle, which I think needs to be said. A lot of Trump's negotiating power is due to the left. The left have turned him into this negotiation machine that he wasn't before. And what I mean by that is this. They have spent nearly 10 years now, not nearly, they've spent 10 years now telling everybody that Donald Trump is insane, fascist, lunatic, who only will do whatever he wants to do. So when Donald Trump says, well, we may have to, take back the Panama Canal by force, or maybe we're going to annex Greenland, or maybe we should make Canada into the 51st state. The left has convinced Canadians and Greenlanders and Panamanians that he's crazy enough to do it. If there hadn't been all of this talk about how insane he is, no one would believe his opening positions. But when Trump says, well, if we have to come back and take the Panama Canal back, then that's what we'll do, I guess. Then Panama just says, oh, whoa. Those Chinese companies that we have a contract for with another 2 years or whatever, no, we've just kicked them out. They're gone. No, absolutely, we won't charge you for U.S. Military vessels. Of course not. No, we're compadres. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And he's just a steamroller. And he's bending the world to the will of America. I almost said bending the world to his will, but he doesn't need this job, you know. He's not Chelsea Clinton, who has to be involved with the government in order to live a $80 million lifestyle. $80 million for eight. If it had been $8 million, I'd have been outraged. $80 million of our tax money to pay that harpy. Now the next step is to have the Attorney General take a look at the people that received these donations and start doing an investigation into who took money from USAID, and then start doing an investigation into their 501c3s and see if they fulfilled their charitable purpose. If it turns out that the transaction was underground but essentially legal, that's one thing. But first of all, the BBC has got to, that must have caused an aneurysm for that news to become public. And then it's like, certainly, with all of the, on Steve's Right Angle this week, he brought up a chart that showed that there were 39 different entities that channeled money from USAID to get to Bill Kristol's organization. He probably got $2-3 million out of it, something like that. And amateur Republican sleuths tracked the money trail, and they found 39 different nodes that money traveled from to get from USAID to Bill Kristol's 501c3. Now, if that's outrageous, but my understanding is it's legal. However, if it turns out that the charitable purpose of the organizations that receive money from USAID has nothing to do with the mission of USAID, now you might have a court case. You might have a court case. And yeah, then it's like, okay. But Politico, $8 million we've been paying, I've been paying, you've been paying $8 million in order to fund people to put out this message. And as a number of people have pointed out, I really think this is really important. As a number of people have pointed out, this entire the entire woke phenomenon is not nearly as powerful or substantive as it looks. In other words, all of this woke propaganda has been funded by the U.S. government. And when you take this away, you find out that it's just smoke and mirrors. There's nothing there. I just love the fact that Politico couldn't make payroll for the first time in its history because Elon Musk and a couple of other people working behind the scenes crunching numbers found out that they were getting money and turned it off. If Politico was a legitimate standalone organization, for instance, you could cut off all government subsidies to BillWhittle.com, all of them, and we'd still be putting out our 3 trifectas a week and all the rest of it. In fact, if you cut every single government subsidy that we take here at BillWhittle.com, it wouldn't affect us in the slightest. We wouldn't have to fire anybody or lay anybody off, not a single person. I can tell you, you could cut off all government funding to BillWhittle.com, and it wouldn't make any difference whatsoever, not a cent. So, what does that tell you about the actual power of these organizations, right? I mean, if it turns out they need government subsidies, Roadrunner went and checked. BillWhittle.com got 0 from the government and busted again. Just another loser. Can't ride the gravy train like any other normal grifter. Hang on, let me just move this light. Yeah, it's a little better. Bummer. I don't know where my government subsidies are. Probably because I didn't apply for any. Yep, what a grifter. Well, hopefully, all of this Doge stuff will mean that we'll be able to have a significant tax cut, still fund the government, maybe even pay less in taxes and pay down the debt a little bit, and then with more of our money available to us, then we can have more members at BillWhittle.com. So you can give me a government subsidy and cut out the middleman. Oh, I like that line, actually. I rather like that line. I might have to use that line for a fundraising drive. We don't get any government subsidies, but since you've got a tax cut, you can pay me a government subsidy, but cut out the middleman. Just pay me directly. I don't know, I just find that amusing. Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka says, we're going to win so much you're going to get sick and tired of winning. It's like, I'm not sick of winning yet. I don't even, although he's doing so much, I can almost imagine a place where I am sick of winning, but I no. Run them into the river. And they are in absolute disarray, and my only, wasn't even a fear, just more of a worry, really, because I knew that they would never, the left will never regain the power that it had. It can't. I'm not saying it can't take over the institutions again. I'm just saying the institutions aren't what they were. The left can maintain control over the mainstream media, but the mainstream media isn't the mainstream media anymore. Mainstream media is gone. All of them together get fewer viewers than Walter Cronkite got on one evening. All mainstream media news, all of it, including Fox. And they can control Hollywood now, but nobody watches Hollywood movies anymore. You know, nobody. And by the way, I don't know if anybody saw the Grammys, but my God, the Grammys have always been the loss leader in terms of, you know, the decline of the culture. But, you know, Nicki Minaj calling out, you know, I mean, I've only seen clips of it, you know, and F you bitch and this kind of thing, and Kanye West with his wife showing up naked and looking like she's heavily sedated and under hypnosis. It's just degeneracy. They become more and more meaningless. Where did I see? I saw a clip. No, I can't talk about it. It's not a mystery. I just saw a clip of two debate teams. Turns out the clip was from 2014, and I can't play it for you, but one of the teams was rapping. And the other team was hyperventilating, and it was so far from debate that it was just, you know, and it made me realize people will either rise or fall to the level of the standards that they're held to. You can write that down if you want to. People will rise or fall to the standards that they're held to, and when you make rapping part of a winning debate strategy, not part of, the entire winning debate strategy, then that's what you get. That's what you get. Critical thinking, analysis, calm, you know, refutation of facts, no. Yeah, movie theaters are done. 5708 Rivera says, took my granddaughter to a theater a couple days ago. It was like a ghost town. Sad testament to Hollywood, yeah. They can thank their friends, the Hollywood can thank their Democratic friends like Dr. Fauci for the death of movie theaters. It was, I mean, they never ever recovered from the pandemic, ever. I've only been probably 2 or 3 times, maybe 2 times since the lockdown, and both times just been deserted. You know, it's just over. It's over. So we, you know, we just, it just goes to show, you know, everybody's shocked at all of this corruption, and we look at these people and we just want to say, have you no shame? And this is where the mirror really needs to be turned around. It's like, of course they have no shame. You know that old adage about the scorpion that's carrying, you know, once he carried across the lake by a frog or whatever the hell it is, or a turtle, and in the middle of the swamp, the scorpion stings the turtle, and the turtle says, "Why did you do that? Now we're both going to die." And the scorpion says, "Because I'm a scorpion. That's what I do." That's what they do. We should have expected it And this is kind of going into my upcoming firewall called a golden age. This idea that that it's entropy, that they'll never stop. The second that we root out this corruption, in fact, it's already underway right now. I guarantee you, right now, they are thinking about new ways to steal money from taxpayers, and they're working on it. And they're going to find a way. They will find a way to do this again. And the only way that we can prevent them is to be watching them 24/7 and assume the worst. And we're bad about that. We just assume, honest people assume that other people behave honestly. And it just ain't true. I wish it was, but it's not. That's one of the reasons why, one of the things Natasha said to me when she first arrived, and she is so proud of her U.S. citizenship, and I'm so proud of her getting it. But we're talking about Russia and America and history and all the rest of the thing. And she actually said, Bill, Americans are so naive sometimes that it's not cute, and it's not sympathetic. It's negligent. It's criminal. It's criminal naivete. And I thought, yeah, she's right. She's absolutely right. I think I might have mentioned this before. It's like, let's say you've got a bank and the bank owns the parking lot, the property, the front door, the back door. It's all bank property, right? If the bank didn't lock their money up at night and left them in big sacks outside the door with big dollar signs on them, and somebody came along and stole them, they'd still be stealing them. But on some level, the bank's not responsible. The bank didn't make them steal it, but the bank has a responsibility to protect the money from what it knows to be a criminal class. And so you have to start asking yourself, at what point does the bank assume responsibility for the stolen money if they just leave it in unguarded sacks outside the front door? Well, we're on the honor system. The honor system is great, and it's a wonderful thing, and it works really well with honorable people. But it's criminal negligence. Chris Lazar says it's really time to get rid of the Department of Education. I think that's going to happen. I actually think it's going to happen. I made a point. I thought it was a rather good point, if I do say so myself. I was on a right angle, I don't know, a month ago or something. I said I think it's easier to eliminate the Department of Education than it would be to cut 25% of its budget. I genuinely believe that. I think it'd be easier just to eliminate it than it would be to cut 25% of its budget. Because if you decide to cut 25% or 50% of its budget, then it gets into an argument about its value. But if you simply say, no, it's going. This is the thing about Trump. I'm behind on the hot mics. I'm just behind because I'm trying to focus what the hell I'm trying to say. And Trump is moving so fast that every time I think I'm going to talk about something, he's gone and done something else. But the title I'm thinking about is the steamroller, and it's like he is moving so quickly that they can't get a bead on him. They can't. They can't do anything but run. He really is like Godzilla coming through the town, It's like, what the hell do we do? Well, we could go over here. No, he's just smashed that building. Well, we head for the subway. No, he's ripped the subways up. There's not. Where do we go? Just run. They're running. And I think if somebody as smart as Milton Friedman could be, many people have seen the clip, is being interviewed by Peter Robinson, I think. He just basically says, he asked Friedman, I'm going to just name government agencies. You tell me if they should be abolished. Yeah, Peter Robinson. Asked him whether they should be abolished or kept. And he basically says education. And Friedman says abolish. Energy, abolish. Agriculture, abolish. Defense, keep. Commerce, abolish. What if you had a U.S. government that had 3 agencies or 4, instead of 25? If Milton Friedman's behind it, then I am conditionally behind it too. He was wrong about the payroll withholding at first, but everybody's wrong about something. And I'll tell you what, man. And he's doing it in a way that doesn't see. This is what I mean by the steamroller. I need to remember this when I finally do this thing. Hopefully tomorrow. He's like take USAID, right? He didn't even give the people time to mount a protest. They got locked out of their offices. Their computers were confiscated. They didn't have time to dig in. Yeah, that makes sense. Roadrunner says the only part of the Department of Energy that needs to be kept is the National Nuclear Security Agency. Okay, get rid of the Department of Education and spin that thing back off on its own again, the way it was before. Article 1, Section 8 says Marusha only lists 17 things that government is authorized to do. National defense is in the Constitution, says Rivera. That's right. That's why we need a Defense Department. I think you probably need a transportation department for things like the FAA. I think you need something like what FEMA should be. I'm just trying to go through the list. You don't need agriculture. You don't need ATF. You need something like the FBI. You have to have. And the thing about the FBI, the way it was structured and the way the ideal, rather than, I understand that we never achieved the ideal, but the ideal of the FBI was that it was named the Federal Bureau of Investigation instead of the Federal Police Department. Because the idea would be that the FBI's primary job is not being a federal state police force. It is assisting other law enforcement in order to deal with things like interstate crime and counter-espionage and things of that nature that you need on the federal level. Eric Blake says Congress Constitution grants to Congress the power to hire pirates, matey. Privateers is the term, and I saw this. I don't know if it's true. Somebody can back this up. I think I did see it. I don't know if it's true. Did Donald Trump say there's talk about putting $1,000 bounty on the head of every illegal alien, or is that just somebody pulling my leg? Bring back letters of marque and reprisal, exactly. But man, see, and there's another. Obviously, there's a follow-on effect. That was a rumor. Okay, yeah, it sounded pretty thin. So, like I said, unverified rumor, saw it once today. But the thing is all the follow-on of effects, right? I mean, for example, take the deportations. I mean, he hasn't deported a tremendous amount of people because he's only been at it for 2 weeks. He's deported thousands and thousands, but he's opened up the pathways. But what's really happening is that so many people are deporting themselves because, and it's real simple, if you are here illegally from Mexico, let's say, and you want to stay here, then up until January 20th, then you just stay here. And what's the worst that happens? You get caught, you get a slap on the wrist, no big deal. But one of the things about deportation is that if you are deported from the United States, you can never enter the country legally again. And so a lot of immigrants who are not necessarily criminals at all, but who want to eventually, who live here and would like to stay living here, a significant number of them are deporting themselves because they don't want to be deported. They are leaving of their own volition so that they can re-enter legally, which I think is fantastic. I think it's absolutely fantastic. This business, yeah, Marusha, talking about people waving flags with countries they hate getting sent back to. When I see them waving Mexican flags, I think you can't be that stupid. Honestly, you can't be that stupid, but they are that stupid. Because when I see people in this, like shutting down freeways, waving Mexican flags, basically saying, I'm burning American flags, forget about the hypocrisy of it. My immediate visceral reaction to that is, I'll call in the airstrike myself. Here, come and get them. If they had any sense, what they would do is they would wrap themselves in American flags and burn Mexican flags. If they had any sense, that's what they would do. But it's not about sense, because in times of stress, people go to their true allegiance. And for the cases of those people, I'm not talking about all Mexican immigrants, legal or illegal. In the case of those people, the whole La Raza thing, the Reconquista thing, that we're gonna basically, California belongs to Mexico. That whole crowd. You're welcome to leave, and I'd love to see him deported. They say in America stole this land from Mexico. Okay, well, Mexico stole it from Spain. Spain stole it from France. France stole it from Spain prior to that. The Spanish stole it from the Aztecs and the Mayans. Aztecs and the Mayans stole it from other people in the Toltecs, and they stole it from they go all the way back down to Pilton, man. We had this conversation before, I think. Yes, Dave Big Booty points out Mexico lost California in the war. That's right. That's right. Mexico defaulted on loans and basically said, come and get it. So we did. And when we were standing in their capital, when our cadets, West Point cadets, what was that battle, in the final battle of the Mexican-American War? Was it, I almost said the Battle of Chipotle. Oh, come on. When they overran the Mexican fortress in the heart of Mexico City. No, not the Alamo. It's on the tip of my tongue too. Doggone it. The walls of who was the first person over the walls of? Was it Buena Vista? I don't think so. There was a fortress that I think like Robert E. Lee. Well, Robert E. Lee was certainly there. Was it Veracruz? The Battle of Chipotle. Yeah. Might have been Veracruz, but anyway, a small American army marched across all of Mexico. Ended up in Chapultepec. That's it. Thank you. Chapultepec. Thank you. The walls of Chapultepec, and some major Civil War general was like the first cadet over the barricades, and I don't know who it was. It was Joe Johnson or somebody like that. That's why I thought it was the Battle of Chipotle, because it will be. Don't worry, as our gets smaller. Yes, the bounty hunter thing was discussed in, was it Mississippi, Louisiana, Mississippi maybe? I'm talking about bounty hunters. I don't know. In any event, it's a remarkable time, and so let's get to some questions and see what we have to say about that. Briefly about the website, a number of people, we pointed out last time on Monday I was working on, no, not Monday. While we were shooting our backstage show on Tuesday, I was working with the web host. So basically, here's what happened. We've got the website is way too slow. It's a 9-10 second page load. It's just completely unacceptable. I had hired somebody to maintain the site and so on, and did not do the job. I had hosted the site on very fast dedicated server, which I thought would speed it up, but it's essentially about as slow as the old site is. Now there's a lot of dead plugins there that this guy was supposed to be taking care of. We got a very nice offer for somebody to offer tech help, which I will take up if this other thing doesn't work. But in any event, what happened was WordPress has something called the automatic plugin manager, and we had to redirect the DNS, and either WordPress engine or A2 hosting, somebody pointed to the old site instead of the new site. And so I went back to Fiverr, found a guy who's got 300 reviews. He's got 5 stars, and he's an optimization guy. And he has one package where he guarantees 3 to 5 second load, and another package where he guarantees 1 to 3 second load. I picked that second one. So he's probably going to start tomorrow. And I think he said it's 3 days delivery. So I don't know whether he's going to be able to do the plugin updates or not. If he can, I'll figure out a way to get that done. But in any event, I would expect certainly by next Thursday, and hopefully by Monday, we would have ourselves a operating fast website again, because it's just crazy slow and has been for a long time. It took me forever to get to it. So let's open up the crazy slow website right now and figure out what we're going to do with our questions for the day. Oh. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it's insanely slow. Sure, it's a good looking site though, I'll say that. It's not my goddamn planet, Monkey Boy. Awesome movie. Alrighty then, here we go. TSL questions for 2625. That's curated this time by Eric Blake. Thank you. I've heard we got like 10 questions, so have a look at this number of duplicates, I reckon. This is ridiculous. This loading speed is just insane. So. All right, let me just have a look at what we got. We got an Eric Blake. We got a Roadrunner. A Jacob Belchek. A Bob Neef. Another Bob Neef. Another Bob Neef. Marusha Dark. Capital G Geek. Steve Young. Dave Olson. I think we can get through all these. Some of them look pretty quick. So we're going to try. All right, here we go. Eric Blake. Tonight, the case of the Canadian complication. So, Bill, as you know, Pierre Poilievre has been polling very well for Canadian PM election. But some Canadian conservatives have been getting very concerned about the whole tariff clash between Trump and Trudeau may well have helped Trudeau's party. Specifically, they fear that Fidel Jr. can come out of this looking to Canadians like the hero. Granted, he's not running for this election, but still. What do you think, Bill? Do you think the conservatives in Canada have a legitimate reason to fear? I don't know, man. I think... people, obviously, when there's an external threat, and Donald Trump was playing some hardball, and so were some American commentators, who I didn't think were helping the case very much. I just never understand this. But basically, saying, "Oh, we don't need Canada," and they're making the case we don't need Canada, and technically we don't, but they are our best friend in the world, and I was thinking about this on the way in. You can contribute. You can attribute a significant amount of America's success to the fact that we have I think it's the longest border in the world, and it's with our best friend in the world. I mean, if you think about how different America's history would have had to be if we had to really defend the northern border, that was a threat, and that there was a real possibility of Soviets putting missiles in Canada or something like that. I mean, we benefit enormously from being good friends with Canada. And so, I saw some people mention this in the comment section, and Steve mentioned it on the show, on my show, which isn't up yet. But he said he saw a T-shirt that said, "I survived the Great Canadian Trade War, February 3, 2025 to February 3, 2025. Poliev." Thank you. Deef. So it may have caused a small bump in Trudeau's numbers, but I suspect that since the election for Canada is still 9 months away, something like that, 7, 8, 9 months away, I expect that's what's going to happen in the 9 months. First of all, Canada has agreed to deploy troops and helicopters on the northern border and stop the flow of fentanyl. So Trump won that in short order, but basically he's just asking Canada to do their fair part, to patrol their end of the border. That's not an unreasonable request, and it's not a humiliating request either. It's not like we demand the right to patrol inside Canadian territory, that's a national affront. That's an affront to your national honor. But basically saying, hey, look, guys, we're friends, but there's a lot of garbage coming over the fence from your side, and be kind of nice if you did something about that. So what I think is probably going to happen is just the opposite. I think they're going to see so much change in America, and the economy is just going to bloom, and the mood and the just the explosion of entrepreneurialism and just plain sheer national will. Not even will, morale is the word I'm looking for. I think come time of the Canadian election, they're going to be saying we need our own Mr. Trump, and Polyev is that. He's the Canadian Trump. He's got the same backbone as Trump. He's got the same philosophy as Trump. He's just very nice and polite and erudite and Canadian. He's the perfect Canadian Trump, or Trump can be the American Polyev, if you prefer. He's going to win. I don't think there's any question he's going to win. Polyevra. Okay, Pierre. Mr. Pierre. And he's great on camera. He's great looking on camera. He's very good on message. He can deliver a really sharp barb. He's quick on his feet. He's phenomenal. You put Pierre in the Prime Minister's chair in Canada, and you start meshing gears, then Canada and the United States can become an economic superpower. I'm not saying you fuse them. I'm not saying we annex Canada, nothing like that. I'm just saying if you have a pro-business America and a pro-business Canada, and you start meshing these gears, then that kind of leaves Mexico in the dust, and presumably this would eventually trickle down to Mexico, and a lot of Mexican returnees feeling like, well, America's off limits for us now. One thing you have to say about illegal immigrants, they may not be the most strictly honest of the people in their country, but I think it goes without saying that they are, to some degree, pretty much the most industrious. I mean, if I grew up in Mexico and I saw this land of opportunity to the north, I would do anything to get there. I would do it legally, because that's just how I'm built, but I'm built that way because I'm an American. I think that by the time the Canadian election rolls around, America's going to be so just going to I really genuinely think we're going to astonish the world. There's that. Let me just get these super chats that I missed. I don't want to get these guys buried here. I'll just go through them all. And then I'll get the next question. Here's one from JDoc. I'm late. Please talk about this. USAID has been paying for everything. Democrat. This is the biggest corruption to reveal ever to happen in my life. People don't even understand how big this is, yet this is their skeleton key, and he broke them. Yes, I think we talked about that already, JDoc, and if you were late, I'm sorry, but we pretty much covered that in a lot of detail, so I don't really want to go back over that. You can see it for the beginning of the show when we end the stream, and it'll be up there on YouTube. So we covered that in a fair amount of detail, I think. From JDoc, they don't yell this much about NC or LA, but USAID, CIA power projection. You teared up on election night. I teared up a couple of days ago because they got him now. Yeah. This entire time since the election was a relief, but since the inauguration, it's been past relief. It's been a sense of it's over. I mean, it's not over, but we've won. It's like my mom. I've told this before. My mom recalls the time when she was. They took all the kids from London during the Blitz and sent them out to the countryside, and people just lined up to pick up kids. Kid would get off the train, and whoever was next in line would get the kid. No background checks, no nothing. And my mom paid a big price for that. But this woman was insane. But she remembers the only kind, happy memory she has of that woman is her opening the door late one night on December 7th. Oh, it must not have been December 7th. Maybe it was December 7th. It might have been 2 days later, 3 days later. But whenever United States, when Hitler declared war on the United States, she came into my mom's bedroom while they were sleeping and woke them up and said, okay, it's going to be okay now. America's in the war, so it's just a matter of time now. It's going to be okay. America's in, and yeah, exactly. That's how it feels. It's like, no, there's a lot of fighting left to do. They're still in a state of shock. They're going to regroup, and then they're going to start their counterattack, and we better be prepared for that. But they are in disarray. And the thing I like so much about how fast Trump is moving is he's not giving them time to regroup. He is running them into the river. He's whipping them out of their boots and running them into the river. He's got his cavalry on them, and don't give them a chance to stop and regroup. Just keep hitting them. Just keep hitting them. Get inside their OODA loop and yeah. I mean, it's just glorious, man. It's absolutely glorious to watch, and it has produced a world that is so sublime that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez can say Elon Musk is a pretty stupid guy, and it doesn't outrage me anymore. It just makes me feel sad for her. Like, you really are that lost, aren't you? You are the dumbest person in Congress, and that's quite a statement. You know, that's not an easy goal to achieve. You got to give her credit for that. And you're talking about probably the single greatest all-around Renaissance mind on the planet. I don't think there's any question about that. If he had just done SpaceX, he'd be in contention for that role. But clearly, he's the most influential man on the planet. At least he was until January 20th. Now he's working with the two most influential and powerful men on the planet, and the smartest. And she says, "Boy, he's really dumb." And I just look at that now and just go, that's how far these people have been knocked off their perch. They are knocked so far off their perch that they're reduced to AOC saying that Elon Musk is dumb, and Schmucky Schumer, holding up a can of beer and saying, "We will win. We will win." He's got a whole crowd of, probably 4 or 5 people chanting with him. It was pathetic. Pathetic. Here's what's going to happen on your Super Bowl. This Corona is going to cost more money. I don't know how many people drink Corona during the Super Bowl, but I'll bet you they could find an alternative. And what about the avocado you need for your guac? Look, I'm just a regular American meat and potatoes guy. I think guacamole's for communists, but who am I to judge? Sorry, Chucky, didn't buy it. Wasn't impressed. So anyway, here's Lapco92 with a super chat. I've always said Hollywood's Achilles heel was secondhand shops like vintage stock. There's a huge backlog of genuinely good old movies. You have a physical object, and Hollywood makes zilch on the sale. Okay, I bet you could find interesting DVDs of long lost Jimmy Cagney movies if you search hard enough in there. Stuff. Here's a super chat from Sika Pollen. That's just a super chat for $10. Thank you very much for the contribution. That's very kind of you, Sika. We're very, very, very grateful. Thank you very much. I'm going to go with Graham Finlayson Fife. Who's worse, AOC or Jasmine Crockett? I'm going with Jasmine Crockett on this one just because she's more annoying. AOC's just pitiful. Crockett needs to be disciplined by the Congress for her antics. And if you don't, then the U.S. Congress is going to turn into the Grammy Awards. So, Crockett is she's just, Dave Reel's Area 51 says she's more racist. She's incredibly racist. That's fine. It'd be a waste to be Marusha says it'd be fun. How funny it would be to watch Elon go up against AOC on the House floor. This is what I mean about getting past all of this rancor that they usually generate in me, and me getting to a place of like almost like Zen serenity. It's like I don't need to see Elon Musk disassemble AOC. It's a waste of his time. She disassembles herself. Hey, Caledon Society's here. How you doing, buddy? It's why waste his time? To do what? To prove what everybody knows? If you really think that AOC, that there's no irony in AOC saying that Elon Musk is an idiot, then you're beyond redemption. Just, yeah, fine. Knowing, if she'd said that about Trump, that Trump was an idiot, campaign Trump, who was just picture perfect. If she called Donald Trump an idiot, I bet you, and it was getting traction, right? I bet you Trump would do something like, I bet he'd go to bartending school for 3 hours, get his bartender degree, or whatever you need, your license, and just say, hey, I just became a bartender. It took me half an hour. Pour a couple drinks. I'm not denigrating bartenders. Most bartending is a delivery skill, and they're skilled people. But I have known bartender artists who made their own cocktails and who are, and you could tell if you've ever been around a genuine cocktail genius, that kind of bartender, you know it. Because I took a sip of some of these things and I just went, I've never tasted anything like this in my life. I love cocktails. I think the idea that there's an art form in mixing chemicals. A mixologist, says Lord Bios. Yeah, this guy invented a number of his own cocktails, and I just... and he actually took a liking to me because I would order something and it was relatively quiet, and I said, oh, that's fantastic. What is that? Is that sage? Yes. Sage. It was a Bloody Mary. And he says, yes, I go out to, Ojai. It's a 45-minute drive. And get sage on Sunday mornings for the cocktails, for the Bloody Marys. Dude. I didn't see it, Huddy. It may be in my inbox. Huddy says, Bill, did you see the article I sent you about Trump offering 20,000 employees 1 year pay to quit their job? Elon was offering it. I did a segment on that, I want to say a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And Elon said, we'll pay him for 2 years. I think it's brilliant. It's a small price to pay to disassemble the immortal bureaucracies. I just think Trump would just do it. Just like said, yeah, I did what she did. And it wasn't that hard. Because it's probably not terribly hard being a bartender. It's probably hard to be a good bartender. Marusha says 40,000 have left already. That's a start. That's a start. And see, this is what I love about what I'm watching. It's not getting weaker. This is the thing that I can't really fathom. I have to write this down. Sorry. I just have to get this note down. This Trump steamroller is not getting weaker. It's not slowing down. It's getting stronger. Every action he takes, he gets stronger. So 40,000 employees, right, have taken the offer. So now Trump can now say 40,000 employees have left the government, and you can't tell the difference. What does that tell you? How many more can go before we start to feel it? I bet you it's like Twitter. This is when Elon Musk can come in. Well, when I bought Twitter, I fired 95% of the staff. And we not only didn't take a hit, we actually operated better. 95%, something like that, wasn't it, for Twitter? So, the more that take the offer, the more that will take the offer. The momentum is gaining. No one has seen, James Blackhawk just beat me to it. We've never seen anything like this. I don't think anyone alive today has ever seen this before. No. I can't think of a time in history when we've seen this kind of positive change. It's just astonishing. Because the whole thing was a house of cards, I certainly didn't predict that things would fall apart for them this fast, but I have said from the beginning that nobody is buying the Rey Skywalker action figures that nobody wants woke. Nobody wants it. I've been saying this for 4 years. And what we're beginning to find out is there's no there, which is great. It's freaking awesome. Okay, moving on. Roadrunner. Hey. They're trying to block his buyout in courts. I haven't figured out how he counters them other than to keep steamrolling with more executive orders. You can fire them, This is what the executive branch does. You don't need legislation to fire people. In fact, that's the reason why you had executive orders in the first place. It's awesome. What are they going to do? Are they going to go on strike? So I'm feeling really, really good about this. Eric's going to buy a Rey action figure just to get my reaction. Well, if you can find one, Eric, good luck for that. Okay, so back to Roadrunner here on the questions. Greetings, friend Bill. Hello. Hail and farewell. Hail and hello to you, Roadrunner. First of all, I'm still not tired of winning. None of us are. However, after everything President Trump was accused of and prosecuted for concerning the January 6th demonstrations, I gritted my teeth every time Scott called them riots. Yeah, me too, actually. When the brand new Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, is going to start going after congressmen and senators that are right now calling for violence in the streets against the government. First of all, by doing this, they have lost the moral high ground that they've claimed since January 6th of 2000. And it was never theirs to begin with, but whatever people bought it, they've lost it. That and the pardoning that Biden went through, all of that. Trump is a dictator. Trump is a autocrat. He's going to pardon himself. He's a criminal. Joe Biden destroyed that, and these calls are destroying that. And a first-time chat here from Serenity Nightlily, or is it Night Lily? Sorry, Serenity Night Lily was talking about Eric Blake buying up the Rey Skywalker, and she said, I'm assuming she said that Eric was going to do that just to get my reaction. Well played. We'd like to see more of you, Serenity. That was a perfectly executed 10 first dive into the pool. So glad to see you here, and keep them coming. That was my reaction is muted. Yeah, the press secretary though says Kirk's bamboo bazooka. She's fantastic. It's just bam, 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 bam. So anyway, here's some examples, and he's shown links of people calling for violence. Chuck Schumer, Maxine Waters. We're gonna win. We're gonna win. Representative from California, Dave Min. Representative from Texas, Jasmine Crockett. Well, that's not to be doubted. Everybody's favorite, Ilhan Omar. I listen to Ilhan Omar talk about the Constitution. I think every time I hear her say the word Constitution, I expect that she's going to burst into flames, That just the second the word comes out of her mouth, her face is going to melt like the guy in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I just can't believe it. And again, we have to pause for network. We have to pause for this word from our sponsors. John Eden in the YouTube super chat for $99.99 again. Well, John, you've been handing us money like this forever, and we never get tired of it. But at least now we all get to party together, and I like winning better than I like losing. So hopefully we can put some of that enthusiasm back into you and give you a little bit of your money's worth, because we are just universally blown away, not just grateful, blown away by a $100 super chat pretty much every Stratosphere Lounge. Not pretty much, for every Stratosphere Lounge. Yeah, Caledon Society says, John Eden, the man, the myth, the legend. John, thank you. Thank you very much. And then New Jersey Representative LaMonica McIver. This is insurrection, according to the Democrats. It's rule number 4 in Alinsky's rules for radical states: make the enemy live up to his own book of rules. Yes. These people need to be investigated, arrested, 3 a.m. raids on their homes by FBI agents in SWAT gear with Fox News cameras recording everything seems to be the Democrat-approved method, and prosecuted by partisan Republican judges, if there are any. There will be. This may be the only way to show the progressives that they have to live by the precedents that they have created. Alinsky's rule number 6 says, A good tactic is one your people enjoy. Well, I'm enjoying winning. That's a good tactic, good strategy too. Let's just keep winning because it is amplifying itself. It is a positive feedback loop. And put that down too because that's actually kind of a good point. Thank you again for everything that you do for your members, even the website tech support. Thank you very much. We're working on it. We'll get that baby going, and then we'll stress test the thing. We're getting ready to get this story mechanics going at long last and all the rest of it. Okay, Jacob Belcheck. Hail Bill. Hail Jacob. Thank you for your kind words to me last Thursday. You're very welcome. I feel obligated to say that by virtue of having extraordinarily wise and dedicated parents, I have avoided the majority of the struggles facing the young men of my generation. Jacob was talking about, just how brutalized the Gen Z males have been, and I'm glad to hear that that angel of death has largely passed over your house. So good to hear that. Nonetheless, the problems that young men must face remain. How would you define manhood? What are its virtues? What are its vices? What are its pitfalls? What ought a man to be and do and ought not to be and do? So that is an important word. The question and the previous questions from Jacob have come from such a place of genuine sincerity and honesty that I want to answer it extensively and simply. And I just say all this because I don't want it to sound like I'm talking down to you or treating you like you're an idiot. Because some of the things I'm going to say are just very obvious, but I don't think you've really ever heard them before. The term being a man is not the same as being a male. And unlike the left, who can't define what a woman is, I can define I can define what a male is and what a man is. A male is an adult. A male is a human with XY chromosomes that almost always results in male genitalia and male body structure and all the rest. If there's an exception to that for whatever genetic fluke, that is a rare exception. But generally, if you're XY chromosome, you're male. Not generally. If you have XY chromosomes, you are male. That's the biological definition of male. But a man is something completely different. There are huge numbers. I don't know. In fact, it's possible, it might even be likely, that the majority of males in the country today are not men. It wasn't always true. It used to be that the majority of males in this country were men, and that the males that weren't men were an exception, but we've had some serious erosion along those scores. So let me tell you what a man is as I understand a man, as taught to me from my father, who was definitely a man. How would I define manhood? Manhood is doing the right thing regardless of the cost. Not the smart thing, the right thing. And the right thing for men is ultimately to take care of his family. That's what a man is. A man takes care of his family regardless of the cost. And somebody who doesn't do that is shirking manhood. It is an enormous burden. An enormous burden. So that's the responsibility. But there are many other qualities that come with it. I don't consider guys like Andrew Tate to be men. They call themselves alpha males, which is fine with me, but I don't consider them to be men. The reason I don't consider them to be men is because part of manhood is doing the right thing, as John Eden points out, doing the right thing even when nobody is looking and not crowing loud about it. It's not something you brag about. It's not something that to brag about it is to lose it. The greatest generation had. I was taught by my parents were the greatest generation. And my father taught me that not only do men do the right things, but men never brag about doing the right things. That it's unseemly, it's unmanly to brag about doing what's expected of you. And all of these alpha males and sigma males and all the rest of it, you got to get these steroids and get pumped, and I have 6 different Lamborghinis, and I go out. You're children, you're little boys, you haven't grown up yet. Real men don't do this and don't need to do this. This is nothing like manhood, and some people like Tate are selling this. What do I call it? I'll just come out and say it. This asshole masculinity, right? They're selling this as the real deal. It's not. Men have to remain quiet and humble about these things. And as Can I Get a Channel points out in YouTube, we also don't bitch when it hurts. Yes. One of the things that and it took me a while to learn this. Yeah, Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka says, knowing you're the one who has to shoot Old Yeller. Let me just go to that, because that's actually really important. There's a movie, Jacob, that I'm sure you've never heard of called Old Yeller. I saw it when I was a kid, and it messed me up. It was designed to mess you up. Old Yeller is the name of a dog, and the story is about a boy and his dog, and how much that boy and that dog love each other. Comes a point at the end of the movie when this dog, Old Yeller, because he's a yellow dog, develops rabies, and so the dog has to be put down. And if I remember correctly, and it's been a long time, I've probably just blocked it out. But if I remember correctly, the father offers to do it, but the boy says, no, I'll do it. He's going to have to shoot the dog. Now, when you say shoot the dog, you can say, oh my God, how horrible it must be to put a pet down. And I put a lot of pets down. Person I was seeing before had a lot of cats, but of my own cats, the ones that have been my family, I've had to do it 3 times, and it's not going to be too much longer before I have to do it a 4th time, because Bean is slowing down. He's not sick, but he's definitely slowing down. And Jack O'Hooligan points out that Old Yeller gets the rabies by defending the boys from a wild boar. So the dog sacrifices his life essentially for the boy, and now the boy has to do it. And the reason I'm elaborating on shooting your dog is because he shoots the dog off camera. I mean, not off camera, but you don't actually see the bullet hitting your dog. But in the real world, you do. I mean, it's one thing having had three of my own pets and a number of animals that I cared very, very deeply about. Very deeply about. When an animal's put down by a veterinarian, it just closes his eyes and goes to sleep. You still lose the dog, and it still rips your heart out, and it leaves a dog or a cat-shaped hole in your heart that never really heals. But it is. But what this boy had to do in order to become a man, because that's what the movie's about. You see, the movie is about this boy becoming a man. He had to do something that was the most abhorrent thing he could imagine. This was the worst thing in the world, and it would have been easy to hand it off to somebody else. In fact, the desire to hand it off to somebody else is so close to being overwhelming that it's nearly overwhelming. But the entire point of Old Yeller is not about the boy and his dog. The point of Old Yeller is how the boy becomes a man because he's raised by a man, and that the dog helped make him into a man. Because when that time comes, somebody has to be strong enough to do it. You have to shoot the dog, because if you don't, the dog is going to die of thirst in the wilderness and be eaten alive by predators. That's not how you want your friends to go. It's an act of kindness. Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka says, like old candy from Mice and Men, no, I'll do it. No one else out to shoot my dog. Steve Young says, you always go with your animal for that because you're the most important thing in that animal's life. Now, I have seen people that have turned their animals over to the vet. They just can't be there in the room. And I'm not judging them because I know how hard it is. But my determination was, for the animals that I cared about, I was going to be the last thing they see. Not some stranger. It's going to be me. I'm going to be right there. They close their eyes and that's it. And so this is the essence of why this movie, and anybody who's seen the movie remembers the trauma that the movie caused. Forget about what this fictional boy had to go through with this fictional situation. The reason that everybody felt it is because everybody knows this is not a hypothetical. This is something we are going to have to deal with. And it's like, it's horrible. Horrible. And that is the essence of what being a man is. Now some people will tell you that a man never cries. Well, I'll tell you something, man. If you don't cry when you put your dog down, there's something wrong with you. So that's another misconception about males, is that males have no feelings. It's not it. It's not that you have no feelings. You've got plenty of feelings. And you're allowed to show them under certain circumstances. But there are a very limited number of circumstances. And you can't allow your feelings from preventing you from doing what you have to do. You have to shoot that dog. Well, you don't have to. You don't have to shoot the dog. Like I said, you can just walk away from the dog, and the dog can die from rabies. It'll get thinner and thinner. It can't drink, and it'll take a week for this dog to die. The reason you have to shoot the dog is because it's the right thing to do. It's painful. It's about as painful as it gets, but it has to happen. And I find for myself, look, I cried when every one of those animals went down. I bawled like a baby, but I find that I get tears because I'm like Churchill. I'm a blubberer. I'm fairly easy to cry. But what I'll say in my defense is that the things that I cry, I never cry during emergencies. I never cry when the going gets tough. Beautiful things make me cry. I sometimes I cry at a national anthem at a baseball game. It just hits me. Just the sheer Disneyland of my life hits me. And I think about all the men that didn't come home from places in order for me to sit here and eat a hot dog in the sunshine with my beautiful wife, and it makes me cry. But that's not the same thing as letting your emotions control you. One of the primary, I would say, in fact, your second question is how would you define manhood? What are its virtues? The primary virtue of manhood is courage. Courage is the primary virtue of all. Without courage, there's nothing. And when I say courage, what that means is you have to have the courage to shoot your dog, and it also means that you cannot be off duty when it's necessary, because that's what will happen to the women and the children. When things get either very sad or very scary, they're going to be incapacitated by their emotions, and somebody's going to have to act, and it's got to be you. I forgot that guy actually had something to say. Thank you for that, Dave. I'd forgotten that I wrote that. Dave Booty says, quote, "Courage is love coming to the rescue," unquote. That's from Bill Whittle in his Courage essay. And eject, eject, eject. Love coming to the rescue. It's not a bad line, actually. So the primary virtue of men is courage. And coming with courage comes confidence. Confidence. It's not arrogance. This is again where I get off the boat with guys like Andrew Tate and all the rest of them. They think that they say that men have to have a swagger. I'm not entirely sure I believe that. Let me put it to you this way. If your natural gait, if just you walking every day looks like a swagger, then you're probably in pretty good shape. But if you think that by changing the way you walk and throwing a little bit of shoulders into it makes you more masculine, more of a man. You're out of your mind. Dave Big Booty's got another great point. It's the difference between bravery and bravado. Tate is all about bravado. All of these alpha male coaches are all about bravado. Some of these guys are completely roided out, and they're ripping their shirts off. Oh, man, is that what a man looks like? No, it's not how. I mean, they can look like that, but that's not how Gary Cooper looks. Gary Cooper wasn't a roided out, He-Man rubber doll. Gary Cooper looked like a man, walked like a man, talked like a man. That's where you get your great music. So confidence comes from a certain surety, which as I get older and older and older, honestly, I come to realize that it gets more and more difficult to divorce the idea of this idyllic manhood from religious belief. I find it can be done superficially, but when I say men have confidence, I think the only way you can deal with stoicism and courage in bad situations is some kind of confidence that comes from a belief that things will work out the way they're supposed to work out. And if that means you have to go down doing it, well, then there you go, I have heard from a number of people say that the only way to really survive a long time in combat is to reconcile yourself to the fact that you're already dead. And there's something that's not exactly the same as that, but although God knows I know some married people who some married men look like they've resigned themselves to being already dead. But seriously, there's something about that aspect of it where it's like I'm going to do what I have to do, and as long as I do my best, then I will be welcomed in the hall of my fathers, in whose mighty company I shall no longer be ashamed. That is a profound line from Theoden. He knows his forefathers were great men, and Theoden has not been tested, and when he was tested, he became this decrepit old man, and his weakness overtook him, and Theoden in Lord of the Rings, King of the Rohirrim, is facing his insecurity at not having lived up to his manhood, and so is Aragorn, by the way, both of those men, and that's why that's such a beautiful part of the story, that relationship between Theoden and Aragorn. Theoden is an existing king, Aragorn is a king to be, but both of them are convinced that they have failed in their manhood. They have failed what was expected of them, that they are lesser sons of greater fathers, I think is the expression that Tolkien used. And Tolkien redeems them. Part of courage is a big part of courage and confidence is assuming the characteristics of a person who is convinced that everything is going to turn out okay, even if they don't think it is. Winston Churchill's a great example of this. Winston Churchill said, "We're going to fight them on the beaches. We're going to fight them here. We're going to. If this island story of ours should ever end, it's going to end in blood here on the floor of Parliament." Churchill had many, many, many moments when he wasn't sure, at least until America got in the war, when he really thought there was a good chance that they were going to lose that war. In fact, there were many moments when Churchill was quite convinced he was going to lose that war. But Churchill never let the British people see that. That's for him to carry. That's not, as far as the British people were concerned, Churchill knew and said, "We're going to win this thing," and he said it from the beginning. It's not. There's no question about it. It's a foregone conclusion. That stoicism, that keeping your doubts to yourself, keeping your fears to yourself, is also a big part of the virtue of men. Lady Hawk says, "I'm sure Churchill cried after hearing about Pearl." I bet he did. I know he must have. He absolutely must have. He was a blubberer. Great thing about Churchill, Churchill would, saw St. Paul's Cathedral bombed, and Parliament, where he had spent the previous 20, 30 years, was just destroyed by a bomb. He's standing in the wreckage and he's shaking his fist at the Luftwaffe bomb. He's not crying when his philosophical and ideological home was smashed by a bomb. He cried when he came back after visiting RAF pilots coming down from their flights in their Spitfires and their Hurricanes. The courage of these young men and their resilience and the fact that they're exhausted and they fall asleep before the plane comes to a stop. That's what made Churchill cry. The beauty of it, the manhood of it. These pilots, these RAF pilots, these are boys. They're 19, 20, 21 years old. They're kids. And they're not boys anymore. And they're going up there getting killed, and they're flying 5 missions, 6 missions a day. And Churchill just saw this, and it made him weep. He didn't cry when something went wrong. He cried when something went right. He was moved to tears by the sheer beauty of it. And so all of this stuff comes together to form an ethos. It is a philosophy. It's a way of life, being a man. And I'm here to tell you, like everybody else, none of us ever achieve it. Certainly, let me rephrase that. None of us ever can say that we never lapsed. All of us have had moments where we've been ashamed that we didn't live up to this standard. All of us. And that's part of the game too. Women will tell you, Jacob, and this is an important little piece of knowledge for you, a very, very important piece of knowledge for you. In fact, it's a critical piece of knowledge for you. Women will tell you that they want men to be emotionally available. And being emotionally available is important. You can't just be a rock. You can't just be a stone and have no emotions. Women are emotional creatures, and they need emotional support and emotional interaction. But women will tell you that some women will tell you that that you need to be more emotional, and that it's perfectly okay to cry in front of them. Well, it's not. It's not perfectly okay to cry in front of them. Under no circumstances, Jacob. If you're married, you probably know this already. If you're not, especially if you've got your eye on somebody, you cannot ever cry in front of a woman without them losing respect for you. It's biological. It's not something you do on purpose. It doesn't mean they care less about you, but it is a biological fact. You can never, ever cry in front of a woman. You can cry in front of a friend. That's what friends are for. That's what men are for. When you are at the end of your rope and you can't take any more by yourself, you cannot say to your woman, "I can't, honey, I'm at the end of my rope. I can't take it anymore." You got to call a friend and say, "Hey, Jim, you feel like going out for a beer? I'm having a rough day." Yeah, okay. Then you go out and you sit there and you look down at the peanuts and you're drinking your beer, or your fourth beer, your fifth beer, and you tell your friend what's bugging you, and he'll tell you to hang in there, and he'll pat you on the back, and he'll say he's been through the same thing, and you'll feel better. But you cannot, because women are filled with fear. It's impossible for men to understand how filled with fear women are all the time, because we're indestructible. I have never in my life worried about walking out to my car in a parking lot. Never. Ever, ever, ever. Once or twice in my life, I've seen a couple shady characters around and my antenna go up. And I say, okay, this is a little dicey. But I've never been afraid to walk out to my car. They're afraid of this every single time they go out. And you have to be their barrier against that. You have to be if you really, really want to land a good woman, you have to be the barrier between them and the world. Anything that's going to hurt them has to come through you first, and you are ready to go into the ground if that's what it takes. If you can make a woman feel that anybody who's going to hurt her is going to have to kill you first, you're home free, man. It's that's it. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Now, women have become way out of balance. This is a different subject, so if you want to bring me up that question next time, this horror of modern day dating, I put squarely 80 or 90% of it on the shoulders of women. Women have gone completely, absolutely nuts. And it's made men go their own way. And I don't blame men for going their own way. But part of it is men need to be stronger. And they don't know how. They've never been taught how because they've been raised by women. They've been raised by single moms, or they've gone to school where usually women teachers, but sometimes weak men have told them that you're basically defective girls and toxic masculinity and all the rest of this stuff. I saw on Facebook a little short, and the short said, "Here's how you raise a man," and it was a little kid. I want to say this boy's maybe 5 years old, and he's on an actual, I guess he was on an electric motorcycle, a little tiny electric motorcycle. And this kid comes around, does this jump, falls over the front of the handlebars, gets up and runs towards this swing, goes flying through the air, comes back, falls down again. And this kid is racing this motorcycle, and he's crashing, and he's just rolling over, and he just keeps getting banged up. And I thought, yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly how you raise a man. This idea that, oh my God, what am I going to do? If I let Erasmus out of my sight, he might fall out of a tree. Well, boys fall out of it. Boys are built to fall out of trees. They're built to fall out of trees. Natasha, tomorrow, in fact, we go to a chiropractor. My neck has been great ever since I've been seeing this guy. He does minor adjustments, and we get I get some electrotherapy on this. Lord Bio says boys bounce. They do. And we do some acupuncture, which has been effective. I was never a big believer in acupuncture, and I still have a hard time understanding it. I'm just telling you, my neck doesn't hurt anymore. So, but I have seen occasionally, rarely, I mean, these needles, these acupuncture, you don't feel it's not even like a mosquito bite. Every now and then they'll land right on a nerve and it stings for a second. But these little needles go in, and every now and then there's like a little tiny drop of blood there. Natasha had a bruise this big on her arm where an acupuncture needle went in there, and that bruise stayed there for weeks. It's just got to do with muscle mass. It's got to do with all kinds of things, and she cut her ankle on sawgrass, and it took nearly a year for that to go away. For me, it's gone in 3 days. Men are just built for we are robust. And kids can fall out of trees and they're fine. And you know what? Maybe you fall out of a tree and you break your arm. That's not the end of the world. It's good for men to understand what real pain is. It's good for boys to get hurt, because dealing with pain is part of life. Natasha marvels at how unafraid I am of doctors and medical procedures. And Eastwood says, Norm MacDonald said, "What doesn't kill you makes you weaker." He's right. But I'm not afraid of them, because I've spent 6 hours with an impacted tooth that went into this nerve and lit up the entire left side of my body, and I spent 7 hours passing a kidney stone without medication, and those two situations hurt so much that I could not remember what it was like to not be in agony, and I couldn't imagine what it would be like in the future. And that was 6-7 hours. That really, really, really hurt. And if somebody told me, "Hey, Bill, you're going to go through it again. You're going to have to go through the kidney stone again," I would say, "Okay, let me get home. Just let me get home into bed, and let's do it now. Let's get it over with." That's always been my attitude about pain and things like this. Just get it over with. When I had this, had to have a surgery on my back for skin cancer. They took a hunk out of my back, looked like a piece of sushi, because I asked to see it, because I'm not afraid of it. And they brought this little hunk of bill around. It was about that big, and they looked exactly like a piece of sushi. Here's my skin where they marked on it with a marker, and then here's this unbelievably yellow layer of fat, very thin layer, And then red, like sushi red, uh, tissue, subdermal material. And and they gave me the local anesthesia. He said, Bill, this shot's going to hurt a lot. I said, okay, it's not going to hurt as much as pulling a piece of me off without the anesthetic, so just do it. So he gave me this shot, and there was like a burning in my shoulder, you know, and after about, I don't know, 20 seconds, I said, at what point is this going to start to really hurt? And he said, oh, no, you're taking it really well. That's it. It's just going to get better now. I said, that was it? He said, I've had grown men sobbing. And I thought, well, not me, boy. I'm not saying you couldn't get a yell out of me if you hurt me badly enough, but no, I have my dignity. That's something else, too, I think. This is a great question, Jacob, why I'm spending so much time with it. I'd say that's another element of manhood. And again, where guys like Tate missed the bus. And that is dignity. So courage, confidence, stoicism, and dignity. There are things you will not see me do. And you won't see me do them because I find them unseemly. I don't choose to be thought of that way. Dignity is not like wearing a tuxedo with your nose in the air. Dignity is not embarrassing yourself because you're out of control of your emotions. That's really what this whole manhood thing is, really. Ultimately, boil it all down to one thing. Do you control your emotions, or do your emotions control you? I think as a general rule, with extraordinarily few exceptions, men are not as emotional as women, although modern men are rapidly becoming as emotional as women. And by the way, since we're on the subject, and since this is me being as honest as I can be, I think this is ultimately what straight men don't like about gay men. I don't think straight men give much thought at all to what gay men do in the bedroom. I've had many gay friends, and the gay friends I've had in theater and in movies were friends of mine because they had dignity, because they weren't queens, you know, they weren't doing this drag. They were just regular guys. They had dignity, and I think it's when men see very effeminate women, I think the male reaction, that kind of visceral reaction that men have is that you're making us look bad, that this kind of weakness is the domain of women who can reproduce, who are valuable. You don't get the protections that women get. I think that's really what it comes down to, you know? Yeah, that's it, Dave Big Booty. I'll allow that. That's pretty much it. It's like there's an unseemliness to flamboyantly gay, queenie acting men, you know, and when you see it, it makes you a little, what's the word I'm looking for? It's sus. It's just sus. It's cheating, is what it is. It's cheating. It's like, you know, when I've seen, you know, not just Gen Z or, you know, millennials, but I've seen very effeminate men saying, well, if I ever get called to war, I'm not going because I'm not, you know, it just, you know, and the whole thing, I'm just, you know, it's like, what, how do you get a pass? Why do you get to go home when a lot of men who are better than you didn't get to go home? How's that work out? It's cheating. You are biologically male. You can do the pull-ups. You may not be able to do the pull-ups now, but when they're finished with you in boot camp, you can do the pull-ups. And you don't get this. I think look, I'm not making the case against gay people. I've nothing against gay people to do whatever they want to. But I think the biological reaction that straight men have it comes from a sense of this is somehow cheating, that you're trying to get out of your responsibilities and wear protections that biology doesn't grant you. I just think that's been my reaction to it, because, as I said, I've had gay people, gay friends in some cases, who I don't have that reaction to at all. But I'll see somebody really, vamping it up, and it just makes me angry. Eric Blay says the problem isn't gay men, it's effeminate gay men. Yes, that's it. It's exactly right. I have the same reaction. I would have the same reaction. Exactly right, Eric. I would have the exact same reaction if they were actually straight men. They're just not flamboyant. Marisha Dark points out Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin's not flamboyant. Dave Rubin doesn't hit that bell for me. There's nothing. Dave Rubin looks like, I don't know Dave super well, but I remember being on his show and he offered me a drink and I was like, just a water or something, and I drank it. He said, well, what if that had been vodka? I said, even better. And he said, well, you're a strange conservative. Not that strange. So all of this comes together to form an ethos, Jacob. And the ethos, just to reiterate, because it's time to move on, is basically this. If you're born male, you're lucky. If you're born an American male, you're very, very lucky. And because of this, these gifts that have been given to you, males are free, relatively free, if they've been raised correctly. Males are free from fear in a way that females never are. Men can piss off a sailboat. Men are faster, stronger, and generally smarter. And because you've been given so many gifts, you have a concomitant set of responsibilities. And those responsibilities are, you are going to have to be the one who goes down with the ship when the women and the children row off in the lifeboats. You've got to get that straight in the beginning. You've got to just know that comes with the territory. And this is what's so wrong with modern women. Modern women want equality where it suits them, but they want nothing to do with equality where inequality is to their advantage. I've actually used to love Bill Burr, but he's gotten kind of strange lately. I've lost a lot of respect for him. But Bill Barr was talking about the so-called pay gap, which doesn't exist, but he was saying, hey, just consider it a surcharge. If we're on a cruise ship and the cruise ship goes down, you get to row away, I have to stay here. $1 an hour. 68 Camaro says, okay, my man, you're bigger than fear. Got it. I think you're referring to somebody else. Yeah, see, this is a perfect example of manhood, and the whole thing, perfect example. PGTMR2 says, I seen a guy who was flaming gay in the Navy. He did his job and no one gave him shit. Right, did his job. Boom, didn't complain. No theatrics, no drama. Boom. So it comes down to understanding what your responsibilities are, and this is the last thing I'll say on this. There was a woman who had written about the problem that women have, and somebody challenged her, and I'm trying to remember how the challenge goes. I think this guy, the woman telling the story, I may have two stories conflated, but it doesn't matter because the essence of it is the same. There was a woman who'd written a book on women's troubles, and after the book signing, this man came up to her and said, well, first of all, excellent speech, and my wife bought your book, and my two daughters bought your book, and all the things you said about women and their hardships and stuff, I'm sure that's all true. He said, but I'll tell you something. My wife and my two daughters would rather see me die on my horse than fall down and cry. They'd rather see me die. And this woman looked at him and just went, you have no idea. You have no idea how lonely it is and how desperate it can be to live under that kind of pressure. So, again, I may have two stories conflated, but one woman went out undercover, basically put on a disguise and lived as a man. I think this woman became in fact an actual transsexual, but she did a year as a man, and 2-3 weeks into it, she was writing, I can't believe how lonely this is. When I would have a bad day, I'd call the girls and we'd all get together and commiserate, and everybody would tell me it'd be okay. And men have nobody; they've got nobody, and they have no excuses. They don't get to call in sick to life. Either the rent at home is paid or it's not, and if it's not, then it's you. It's you have to pay that rent. You don't have a chance. You don't have a choice. If it means a second job or a third job or getting on your hands and knees and begging strangers for memberships in a YouTube channel, whatever the case may be, whatever you have to do it. And she found it so astonishingly hard that she ended up killing herself. And notice I didn't say unaliving herself. She committed suicide. I'm not playing with these baby words like unalive themselves or self-deleted. No, she committed suicide, killed herself, because she couldn't take the loneliness and the desolation, the emotional desolation of being just a regular man, just a not the responsibility of a commander in combat or anything, just a regular guy. I think you really, really get it. One of the moments that really say this, if you really want to see what manhood is, rent Saving Private Ryan right after he loses the medic who he really likes. He says, all right, dig a grave, we got to get going. And he walks off, and he goes down the other side of a hill and finds a rock and looks around to make sure that nobody sees him, and he just loses it. Wade, yeah. He cannot handle it anymore. And this is why that is so effective and why it's such a great movie, and why Tom Hanks, who I disagree with on just about everything, is a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant actor. It is more than anybody can take, but he cannot do that in front of his men. He can't. Those men are afraid. And the only thing that protects those men, the only thing that keeps those men together and prevents their fear from causing them to run, is the fact that they know that the captain has got his shit together. And the captain is convinced that we're going to get through this okay. And if he believes it, then I believe it. He cannot let that be destroyed. He cannot let it be destroyed. So he has to go off on his own and break down on his own when he needs more help than anybody. He's the one who's responsible. He's the one who got this guy killed. You may remember at the beginning of that scene, everybody wanted to go around. And he says, so what, we're going to go around and leave it for the next patrol? No. Well, Captain, that's not our mission. And he turns and says, I thought our mission was to win the war. So they go up there and they take this machine gun nest, and this guy gets killed, and he has to deal with it. He knows the names of everybody that got killed under his command. He knows every single one of them. He carries those people. And if he had survived the movie, as so many veterans really did in life, that he would carry that guy and all the rest of the names, Garpazzo or whatever, all of them. He'd carry those names for the next 60 years, 70 years. That's why these men never talk about the war, because they're carrying all these dead bodies around. And that's their job. Somebody has to do it, and men do it. And that's how it goes. So, Jacob, good news and bad news. The bad news is it's not easy. The good news is it's not easy. Not because it is easy, but because it is hard. It's a calling, and it's a responsibility. And the fact that you asked about it tells me that you're going to do a superb job of living up to it. And I'm proud of you, and I continue to be proud of you. And it takes courage to ask questions like that. Bring me another one next week, and we'll keep doing it. Yeah, Dave Big Booty's got it right. Great way to end right here. This guy. Risk. Risk is our business. That's what the ship is for. That made me cry when I saw it. When Kirk says risk is our business. That's what the ship is for. That's why we're aboard her. It's as good as it gets, man. It's as good as it gets. That is why Star Trek changed the world and changed me, is because of that. That had a profound effect on me. Those were the kind of TV characters I was exposed to, right? Not Space Jesus. What's her name? Michael Dunham or whatever. Who can do everything effortlessly and cries all the time. It's like, no. Frickin' James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise is like, he's like the perfect man. He's confident, he's courageous, he has moments of doubt which he shares with McCoy. And Spock if he's in a real hunk of trouble. But mostly with McCoy. That's what McCoy's job is as doctor. He's obviously responsible for the health of the crew, but really, McCoy's got one job, and McCoy's job is to make sure that Kirk doesn't explode. McCoy's job is to make sure Kirk doesn't lose his mind under the strain. So McCoy is always there with a scotch or a drink or a joke or a quip, something to let the strain off of James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise. Because Marisha says McCoy is Kirk's counselor. He's Kirk's counselor, he's Kirk's jester, he's Kirk's confessor, he's Kirk's emergency valve. And that's why I feel like on some level McCoy has been shortchanged because they make it all about Kirk and Spock, and it's not all about Kirk and Spock. It's about Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. And nobody else is in that group, by the way. I mean, they try to make it about Kirk or Kirk and Spock, but it's not. It's Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. He is the will. McCoy is the emotions. Spock is the logic. And the logic and the emotions are constantly tugging at him in different directions, and he has to make a decision. And Kirk not only has to make the decision, he is the one who's responsible for the decisions. How many times has Kirk in the original series made a decision that could have led the Federation to war and killed billions of people? I can count 5, 6 just immediately off the top of my head. 5 or 6. He has the weight of command on his shoulders. He is all alone. And McCoy is the only person who can get in there and say, what's bugging you, Jim? And he won't say, well, Dr. McCoy, say, Bones? McCoy got shortchanged, especially in the movies. And I pointed out when that recent thing came out, was it Redemption, or the fan film that Shatner did, where Shatner shows up on Spock's deathbed, and they both look at the sunrise together and so on. I thought, yeah, this is great, but where's McCoy? Yes, Castellan's got it right: the id, the ego, and the superego. Exactly. McCoy is the id, Spock is the superego, Kirk is the ego. He's the one that has to balance these things. So anyway, we've got 3 from Bob Neef. They're all short. Good evening, Bill. If you had to guess, when was the term AI first used on the Stratosphere Lounge? It certainly has become some sort of critical mass, and is now a term that's used everywhere. I don't know, Bob. It's certainly more than 3 years ago and less than 10. We didn't invent the term here. AI has been something that's been talked about. Well, I mean, if you look far behind me here, right here, you have a guy who just a few moments earlier had a rather unpleasant encounter to AI, with AI. And so that suspicion of AI goes back a long way. Stanley Kubrick was determined to get got his name on the tip of my tongue, but I can't pull it. Can somebody tell me in the comments who voiced Hal? It's a famous actor's last name, but I don't know if the actor's quite that famous. It's not a Barrymore, but it's who was the voice of Hal in 2001? Douglas Rain. Yeah, I knew there was a famous name. Is he related to Claude Rains? In any event, Kubrick was determined to get the most effeminate, non-threatening, unemotional voice he possibly could, because that lack of emotion is what was terrifying about Hal. Just the cold-bloodedness. Claude Rains. Not related. Okay. When Bowman is out there, that's certainly the climax of the movie, is Bowman arguing with Hal. Hal's the villain. This is the battle. It's a battle of words, because the stakes are as high as they get. When Bowman is arguing with Hal, you can watch Bowman's face. Keir Dullea was fantastic. He's a great actor. I don't know why he wasn't huge. But Keir Dullea, if you watch that scene, the real horror of that scene is Keir Dullea realizing that he's appealing for mercy to an entity that doesn't understand what mercy is. He's trying to reason with an entity that has no empathy. Yeah, he was on the Star Lost. I saw the Star Lost, and I'm a science fiction lunatic, but even I thought that show was really awful. Watching him realize that that it is in fact futile. It's futile. I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. He's starting to realize. And then finally Hal just says, I'm sorry, Dave. I find that this conversation no longer serves any purpose. Goodbye. Okay. Then Bowman uses his ingenuity, his human ingenuity, and does something that Hal can't do, which is move from one place to another. And once he's inside the ship, inside a suit, Hal can't touch him. And that's when Hal gets afraid. And that's when Bowman becomes the robot. They completely switch. That's why that's such a great movie. Bowman is the supplicant. Hal is the cruel arbiter of his fate, and leaves Bowman out there to die. But Bowman manages to turn the tables, and then Bowman is the cruel arbiter of fate, and Hal becomes the supplicant, begging for his life. Begging for his life. And that is just so bloody satisfying. It's so satisfying after this monster's killed the three guys asleep, killed Frank Poole, tried to kill Bowman, and Bowman is just walking through there, and Hal's like, Dave, I think you should take a stress pill. Think it all over. And he gets more and more and more desperate. And Dave's not angry. That's what's terrifying. What's terrifying about Hal is that Hal has no emotion. That's what's terrifying about him. That's why he's such a great villain. That's why I mentioned Douglas Rain. Kubrick understood that voice had to be absolutely passionless. It had to be completely, absolutely unemotional. So when Bowman comes in, Bowman doesn't come in like an alpha male. God damn it, I'm going to kick your ass, Hal. I'm going to kick your ass. Doesn't flex, man. He doesn't have to flex. He's got things to do. He's going to be a man. Dave Bowman's going to be a man. Doesn't have to flex. Doesn't have to do any of that stuff. He just simply says nothing. That's what's terrifying about Bowman. No. This is we're past this point now. We're not talking anymore. Hal is desperately trying to engage him because Hal knows he can work on his human emotions, but Bowman's not taking the bait. He's not going to get into a discussion with it. Can't talk your way out of this, Hal. And so anyway, I don't know when we started talking about AI, but it's a fascinating subject, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about it a lot more, especially in the coming years, and probably this year. It's going to see some big strides. Bob Neef again. Curious, who designed your Stratosphere Lounge graphic? I think it's perfect and captures the essence of the show. You mean this one? Hang on there, YouTube. Well, I designed that actually. Did the whole thing. I found the font that I liked. I wanted a view of LA from the bay. I like the colors a lot, and that logo was done by my friend Buster O'Connor, who's a graphic designer that I knew back at the University of Florida. And I need to call him tomorrow morning. He called me. We don't get to talk too often, but I'm going to call him first thing tomorrow morning and chat with my buddy. All Buster did was the figure of me standing there with my hands in my pockets. But yeah, I did that. I do all the graphics. Did the Stratosphere Studio, which I like very much too. Actually, that's not true. Buster did the Stratosphere Studios. Buster did this font. Hang on, YouTube. But all of the graphics on the web page, I did. I love doing graphics. I'm good at them for an amateur. And I've had an enormous amount of fun doing the AI thumbnails since I've had the means to do that. Since Shutterstock went to AI generated pictures, 90% of our thumbnails are AI images now. And I get to just say, here's what I want. And sometimes it takes a while to get the iteration exactly the way I want it, but the last one was we got it on the first iteration. Steve Green introduced it as a couple of new superheroes, these two young Republicans who'd found the money trail that led to Bill Kristol and had basically broken down what USAID was doing. And he said, we got two new superheroes. So I went to Shutterstock and the AI generation thing, and I said, a male masked superhero and a female masked superhero standing up to their waist in an ocean full of $100 bills. And bam, there it was, just like that. So there you go. So I did that. Thank you. And Bob Neef again. Whose fault is it that Gaza is a hellhole? Bob, I'll turn that around for you because I think it's important. Of course, Gaza is a hellhole, and you can largely blame Islam for that because Tehran used to be a thriving city with women in miniskirts and flight attendants and rows of parks and trees. And so was Kandahar. And so was Kabul, if you can believe it, in Afghanistan. That's your short answer. But the longer answer is that the entire world was a hellhole until Western Enlightenment came along. And Europe was a hellhole. But Western way of thinking was, we don't have to become slaves to the environment. We can control and change the environment. We don't have to adapt to the environment. The environment has to adapt to us. That is a Western way of thinking. I've used this example many times because it's the most telling one. Author, I think it's Pierre Boulez, I want to say his name is, wrote Bridge Over the River Kwai. And in the book, talking about the book, he says the difference between the British prisoners and the Japanese prisoners was that when the Japanese needed a bridge, they just sent a patrol of guys out there with machetes, and they hacked the bamboo together and just strung it together, and they made an ad hoc bridge that lasted for 5 or 6 passages, and then the bridge collapsed, and they went out and did another one. What the British did, what the Western mind did, said Pierre Boulez, he said that the Westerners build the bridge in their mind first, and that's a profound difference. He said before they moved a shovelful of sand, the British went out and tested how much of a load the sand could take, hammered a couple of thin stakes into the ground to find out how much load bearing it was. He also wrote Planet of the Apes. Yes, they went out there and figured out how much timber they would need. They organized the work crews in terms of who needs to go out there first. Well, the first thing we're going to need is timber. So the first thing is, before that, we have to have somebody clear the site. So they did all of this stuff. They had blueprints. They had sessions where they would criticize the blueprints, where everybody got a chance to put their expertise in there, It wasn't hierarchical. It wasn't like you couldn't dare. The major designs the bridge and everybody else just goes out and build. No, it's like everybody had their say. Oh, I don't know about this. This looks like it might be a weak point. Oh, well, we could do it this way. Well, it'll take more time. Yeah, but and his entire point was that the Western mind builds the bridge in their head before they build the bridge in the world, and so they don't do an ad hoc kind of a job. They reorder nature in their minds, and then they go out and make that manifest. And they have a very, 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 very detailed plan on how to do that. And that's why we don't live in hellholes. The reason I wanted to turn that around is it's so tempting to say that there's something wrong with the rest of the world, but this was something I learned very early. The rest of the world has always been this way. It's the state of nature for people to live in hellholes. We're the freaks. They're not the freaks. We're the freaks. We're the ones that are the mutants. We are the ones that understand delayed gratification, the benefits of cooperation over the long term when it's easy to cheat over the short term, and all of that. So, yes, it's a hellhole, and yes, Islam has had a lot to do with that. But I mean, and the Jews are. I mean, Israel is a Western country in the Middle East. That's why my mom went to Israel in the late 50s, just before I was born, so 57, 58. And she said in 57 or 58, it was like somebody drew a line on the desert. One side is green, the other side is sand. The green side is the Israeli side because they had a Western view of things. They decided, well, we want to have a farm here. Well, this is just desert, there's no water. Well, we have to get water here then. It's not like, inshallah, if God wills it. It's like, no. We've got to find a way to get water here. We're going to have to pump it here. We're going to have to find it and all the rest of it. That's that. Let's see what we got. We got Marusha Dark, we got a Capital G Geek, we got a Steve Young, and we got a Dables. Yeah, we can get through those, I think. Marusha Dark, topic, what's best in life? That's a lot to read here. I really wish we could keep these questions to questions. To crush the woke mob, see them shook before you, and hear the lamentations of their non-binary birthing persons. Personally, I find it adorable the left still believes we care what they think at this point, calling on Democrat representatives to block all of Trump's appointments. To quote their favorite musical Hamilton, you don't have the votes, you don't have the votes, you're going to need congressional approval, and you don't have the votes. I find it rich, though unsurprising, that they froth about billionaire robber baron Elon hacking the Treasury to steal our money, but not a peep about the CCP hack on Treasury in December. They seem more concerned about process than anything Doge has actually uncovered, probably because the media, Soros, and Hollywood were all on the take from U.S. aid. We know Bondi's finally been confirmed, so that's your wish for a DOJ reborn. Just today, Doge started going after Medicare fraud, and Hegseth proposed auditing the Pentagon. Hard to believe it's only been 2 weeks, huh? It's impossible to believe it's only been 2 weeks. Impossible. With the amount of salt we've been mining, we could probably start our own spice trade, and he who controls the spice controls the universe. Well played. I propose we use the proceeds to begin manufacturing a dedicated line of mugs and tumblers made in America, of course, for those who enjoy drinking the tears of our enemies. But Ben already has one of those, and so does Mark Dice, for that matter. So we'll have to come up with something else. Any ideas? Oh, and here's a bonus I found just at the last minute with a link. Hang on, let's see what this is. NGOs emerge as a shadow government with 55,000 organizations, and there's a fractal diagram of all of these nodes, and it looks like the number of galaxies in the universe. Fractal technology maps previously hidden connections between 55,000 liberal NGOs, revealing how tax dollars allegedly flow through major institutions like Vanguard and Morgan Stanley to groups like the Chinese Progressive Association. For the love of God, this is the biggest scandal of the age. This breakthrough tracking system, see, AI, this is what AI should be. AI should be our servant and not our master. AI should be a secretary that's always on call. We can say to AI, hey, go map this out. And then we don't have to worry about it deciding to, exterminate us. I don't know why it has to be self-aware. It just has to listen to what we want from it. Yeah, they're rotating this thing, and it's like an aneurysm. Example. The breakthrough tracking system can now monitor every dollar going to every NGO, exposing intricate funding webs that traditional tech couldn't detect. Example. Black Voters Matters Fund's $4 million distribution network was invisible until quantum mapping revealed dozens of subsidiary organizations. So a shell corporation inside of a shell corporation inside of a shell corporation, and so on and so on and so on. The unprecedented mapping reveals a previously hidden web of financial relationships. These miserable, low-life criminal bastards. And we knew it. We knew they were criminal bastards. We knew it. Well, to our credit, we did actually overcome a lot of genuine, well, not a lot of, we overcame all of the institutional headwind and beat these people. And we're beating them so bad now that they can't stop running. So I think you can make the case that buying X probably saved the Republic. Buying Twitter at the time felt like very important. I think you probably can make a good case that buying Twitter may have saved the Republic, because I'm not sure that Trump could have gotten elected if he didn't have at least one outlet that was a free speech platform. Somebody here was saying something that was, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Hang on a second. I saw something that was interesting about number of government people. Golden Age of Merch is a great idea. Let me get it written first, and then we'll see. Where was it? It was something about somebody going to an office and there were 3 people there, and I lost the comment. I can't keep scrolling up looking for it. Okay, whatever. Anyway, thank you for that, Marusha. That was great. It's good to see. That's got to scare the bejesus out of them, because now there's a Justice Department, and now it's not just a question of, oh, this was underhanded. Now it's like, was it illegal? Oh, here it is. No, that's not it. Was it illegal? If it was illegal, you might go to jail. I do, did I sell coffee mugs yet? Yes, I did. I had coffee mugs, and in the back there's still a couple of shirts and stuff. We did it the old-fashioned way. We bought, a bunch of them, and that's not the way to go. We have to do all the, fulfillment and stuff. We'll just get some designs out, and we'll have them, available, and then we don't touch it. We just get a percentage of the money. I'll put up a design. A Golden Age design is a really good idea, Marisha. But yeah. It was, that was and we had to store it and all the rest of the stuff. It's just a drag. Okay, so thanks for that. That was great to see. Capital G Geek. Greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia, soon to become somewhat less swampy. Hooray. It's day 17 of Trump the White. Yeah. And things are just looking better and better. You frequently talk about having He-Man Woman Haters Club for Zoomers. I don't like the term woman haters, even though I've certainly been dumping on them. Feminism haters would be a better term. They've just completely inverted women and divorced them from their biology and made them crazy and done enormous damage. Have you given serious thought to starting something like that? Could you run it like the 12-step programs that helped you? Not all manly skills can be taught with video, like changing a tire, driving a stick, or shooting. Back in the day, there was a group of shooters loosely associated with Oleg Volk that would volunteer to take a newbie to the range. You could use something like that as a reward, maybe. Let me just answer that. That is a the online stores. I understand, Marisha. I don't have to touch them. That's the way to do it. I worked many years ago. I worked with Charlie Kirk. I haven't worked with him in a while, and that's fine. You could probably, I think, without question, can make a good case that Charlie Kirk had a profound influence on the 2024 election. You might be able to make the case that he made the difference. In any event, Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro, 2 examples of people who I admire very much and who've done enormous benefits, enormous good. And I'm not about to say anything bad about them at all, on the contrary. But Charlie Kirk is exactly where Charlie Kirk wants to be. Charlie Kirk is living his best life. TPUSA is Charlie Kirk, and there's nothing beyond. And again, this is not criticism. On the contrary, this is the highest praise I have. There's nothing beyond the horizon of TPUSA for Charlie Kirk. He is 100% into that job, and he's done an astonishing amount with it. Ben Shapiro belongs on the Ben Shapiro show, and that is Ben's first best destiny, to use the Star Trek line. I have never felt that political commentary, including things like firewalls, is my first best destiny. And that's why I sometimes come off as so lost. I love doing it, and I think I'm good at it, but it's not my first best destiny. My first best destiny is making movies. And I'm running out of time. It's just that simple. But what that would take, running it in the real world like that, would require somebody for whom that was their full-time best idea of how to spend their life. And I can't make anything like a commitment like that, especially as overloaded as I already am with the things I have to do just to keep the hamster wheel turning. I think it's a superb idea. I wish somebody would pick it up and run with it. It's a great idea. It's just simply off the horizon for me. It's not even an option for me. I'm sorry to say. Real quick for a super chat here, Wesley Bruce. Hey Wes, good to see you. Down under. The Doge guys have been working on this for 8 years, writing search code and collaborating whistleblower reports. Have they really? I didn't even know they existed. Here's another one. These are the autists from 4chan that went after Shia LaBeouf's flag, worked on the QAnon project, wrote the code for Rumble and X. Is that true? I've always thought that those guys were allies. The weaponized autistics, they call themselves. Weaponized autism. They love untangling things. Speaking of untangling things, and there's more to the question here. I'm coming back to you there, capital G. Natasha gave me a something. I got her a necklace for Christmas and our anniversary, New Year's really, and our anniversary, and a little emerald necklace, and she had to take it off when she was at the dentist, and it had a super fine chain, and that chain, since she had to get it off, and she's got such long hair, she had to get it off, and the chain was knotted up. And it was tangled. And she does work on jewelry, but she couldn't untangle it. She said, "Can you untangle this?" And she gave me two pairs of needle nose pliers, and this thing was tight. And all I was doing was just whichever layer was on top, I was just lifting it up and spreading it out. It took me about 25 minutes to untangle that thing. But that was the most satisfying work I had done in a long time. I love working with my hands. That comes back to the man thing, you know. Men work with their hands. They like it. It feels good. When I did all the work on the car, when I put the new headlights into the car, I banged up my knuckles, you know, and there were times when I had the thing in pieces, and I don't know if I could put this thing back together again. Just watch the freaking tutorials again, step at a time. Oh, I put the bumper on, but I forgot to put these screws on. So now I have to take the bloody bumper off again and go back, and that meant jack up the tires, pull the tires off again. You have to do all those things again because that's what you have to do. But when it was done, I felt like Superman. And now I walk out to the car and I look at it every time. Oh, yeah. And it's not like, oh, yeah, that's the car I bought. It's like, oh, yeah, that's the car you made. You made that car. You turned that from a stock 2LT to a rally sport with LED headlights and the side running lights and the new instrument panel and the freaking everything. You did all of it with your hands. And you're an idiot. You don't know how to do any of these things. You just did it. Went out and bought some socket wrenches and watched a bunch of videos and said, okay, I've watched this video 5 times now. Pretty sure I can do this. And did it. And the sense of achievement, having done it with my own hands, is unbelievable. Every time I walk to the car, I've always liked the car. Every time I've walked to the car, I've always been, oh yeah. But now it's like, oh boy. This is what I wanted. This is what I thought I was buying. It's just great. One more super chat from our friend J-Doc. They shouldn't have messed up our video games. Now you got a bunch of pissed off 4chan tech geeks after them, LOL. Yeah, I don't want those guys after me. I'd rather have I'd rather have the FBI after me than 4chan. Much rather. Much rather. Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka says, big deal, Bill. Doc Brown turned a DeLorean into a time machine. Match that. Yeah, well, I haven't finished. I'm still working on the overthruster. Back to Capital G Geek. On the last Stratosphere Lounge, I had a thought that you may want to integrate into the colonies or something. What if a future astroarchaeologist ran tours around the solar system, locating and observing cool artifacts like lost wrenches, the red Tesla Roadster, etc.? That is a cool idea. I have had a thought on Aurora and the second of the Aurora scripts where I do need to boost my theft insurance, Steve Young. I need to call AAA and tell them that my car's worth more than it was before. But I had a thought about a space museum where you would just, have things like that. And then I also thought, that I'd rather have the Apollo 10 ascent stage stay in orbit where it is. I'd like to go visit it. I'd like a mission to go and visit it, explore it, go inside. But I think they should leave it there. And finally, for your AI deepfakes, the AI may be able to keep the character's appearance the same if you give it all the clips of a single character processor as one unit, then manually cut them back together afterwards. Thank you for that suggestion. Once I saw the variations, that was the first thing I said to the guys. I should have just pulled all of the Davenport clips and sent you those, and I think that'll work. He's working on consolidating this, but I think I'm probably on the second or third burner, and I need to get a little more pokey with it. So that's coming. Right now, my top priority, aside from getting stuff out the door, is story mechanics. I'm not doing anything until I get that done. That's number one priority right now. In space, the red dot. Oh, the red dots in space. Yeah, that the web is seeing. Nobody knows. They might be microgalaxies. I don't know. I don't know what they are. Okay, we got 2 to go. Steve Young, evening, Bill. With Doge shutting down USAID, I hear that Politico has not made payroll this week. We've been talking about this a bit. Question, do you think the Justice Department could make a RICO Act case against that federal agency as a corrupt organization? Follow the money. Yes, I hope I've answered that mostly so far, Steve. As I said, track the money. The whole thing is immoral. Everybody knows it's immoral and underhanded and secret. The question is it illegal? For example, Chelsea Clinton, no doubt, doesn't get a check that goes to Chelsea Clinton. It goes to the Chelsea Clinton Foundation for the Advancement of Human Rights and blah, 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 blah. Right? Okay. So hang on a second there, Excellence in Animation. Cool name, by the way. So the question is, she set up a 501c3 to be a tax haven, and because I've had a 501c3. Every 501c3 has a it's called what is the charitable purpose? If you're going to get tax exemption, you have to show your charitable purpose. Now the Clintons are smart enough to know that they have to do something towards the charitable purpose, but the Clinton Foundation, I think it was 6% of the total money they raised actually went to their charitable purpose, and that 94% of it was salaries. There comes a point where you can make the case that is fraud. And my hope is that these people have been so cocky and so sure that they'd never be discovered. I'll give you a great example. Scott was talking about this. NPR runs ads. They're not allowed to run ads, but they do run ads. I haven't seen NPR in 20 years. But 20 years ago, NPR would say something like, this program is brought to you by the Kaiser Foundation, making healthcare, blah, blah, blah. So it's a grant, it's a donation, but it's also an advertisement. And NPR has been becoming more and more flagrant about their advertising because they've never thought that they'd be caught. Well, now all of a sudden, Doge is looking into NPR and PBS, and they are finding cases of where they are simply saying, buy a Toyota down at Dave's Toyota Emporium, and that's a violation of their charitable purpose, because they can't get public money and private money at the same time. That's the whole reason why they get public funding. So that kind of thing, I think, comes from them becoming so certain that nobody would ever have any consequences, that no one would ever get to the bottom of this, that they got more and more brazen, more and more bold, took more and more money, and now they may be have legal exposure, you know. Thank you very much. Can I get a channel? It's very kind of you. Good night to you and to everybody, and say hello to your wife for me, and thanks for sticking around, and it's wonderful. What was the other thing that I wanted to come back to? Excellence in animation. Boy, this thing scrolls so fast sometimes. Hang on a second. Sorry. I have to find it. Just talk. There it is. Hey Bill, young guy here looking for an airplane. Any suggestions? I have a long easy, but I need grass performance and outside parking. Wow, man, I'd love to see a picture of your long easy, and I love the name. We should hang out. Grass performance and outside parking. It's been a long time since I was deeply involved in the the airplane market, but Kit Fox and Husky were making bush planes, and the same experimental rules as the Long Easy. So if you got a Long Easy, you understand what experimental aviation's all about. I saw a few of them at Oshkosh, with the big oversized tires, and undoubtedly, since you're asking about this, you've seen these short takeoff and landing demonstrations where the plane simply revs the engine and just goes straight. It just takes off like a helicopter. It's unbelievable, and they can land the thing within 6 feet, honestly 6 feet. Those are the only two names that ring a bell. Love to see a picture of your Long Easy, because I certainly love those airplanes, and I miss mine very much. I really do. So if you want to send a picture to info@billwhittle.com, that'd be great. And I just wish you the best of luck finding it. But there are a bunch of. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I don't have a Long Easy, but I meant to say would love to have one. Also, can you tell us stories about knowing Bert and Dick Rutan? I can, and I might do that on Monday night or next Thursday if you ask. But I absolutely can't get into it now because it's just a long and deep story, and I would hate to short these two incredible men who've been one of the high honors of my life to get to know by kind of racing through that. Risha Dark's putting some Google suggestions up there, so there you go. I'll have USA buy me a new airplane. Yeah, hooray. So anyway, Steve, could you make a RICO case against them? Yes, absolutely, you can make a RICO case against them. And again, nothing happens if you don't have the Justice Department. We could have caught them with blood on their hands and bodies cooling on the sidewalk, and it wouldn't matter as long as they own the Justice Department. But they don't own the Justice Department anymore. We do. And by we, I mean justice. Look, just so I'm crystal clear about this, I know all of you already understand this, but just needs to be said. When I say we own it, I mean justice owns it. If it turns out that these investigations reveal lots of Republicans or conservatives are taking money illegally, those guys need to get the full hammer of the law in the face just as much as anybody else. I do not want a conservative Justice Department. I don't want a partisan Justice Department. I want an honest Justice Department that is beholden to the Constitution, period. That's what I want. And we have a Attorney General now and a president who doesn't show any signs of not even fear. Forget fear. He's not even showing signs of timidity or second thoughts. He's a steamroller. He's going, and I love it. I just love it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So, follow the money and see what happens. And last one for the night is from our friend Dave Olson. Yes. Hey, Bill, it's great to get together on the birthday of Ronald Reagan and Bob Marley. How about that? Proving once and for all that astrology is bullshit. And speaking of bovine scatology, my own U.S. Senator Tina Smith bemoaned today that Elon Musk and his interns are meddling in aviation safety is truly terrifying. Not only did she tweet this from Elon's own social media platform, she did it on the 7th anniversary of the Falcon Heavy test launch. Has it been 7 years? No. No, it hasn't been 7 years since the first Falcon Heavy flight. Surely not. 3. 7 years. Honestly, if you had asked me, I would have said that the Falcon Heavy test flight occurred after COVID-19. Other than that, I got nothing. Well, time flies, and that's a wake-up call for me. Yes, happy birthday to Ronald Reagan and Bob Marley, and 7 years, my God. Well, let's get out, and that's 7 years with the government in Elon's way. Watch what happens when the government gets out of his way and actually gives him a little tailwind. It's going to be pretty amazing. First Falcon Heavy launch took place on February 6th, 2018, and Stephen Scott and I live streamed it. It seems incredible. What are some improvements? This is excellence in animation. What are some improvements you think that Doge people can make to the FAA? I would recommend having an FAA director who knows what an airplane is. That would be my first indication. I would want a pilot. I would want a pilot in there. Somebody who's had to deal with being in the clouds, losing instruments, and not panicking. That's what I want for the FAA. I want a pilot. I want a guy. And this is the last thing for the night. One of the things that they say to pilots, so airplanes have to undergo annual inspections. If your plane is out of annual, then you're flying illegally. So once a year, you have to go to it's called an A&P for airframe and power plant mechanic. He's a certified aviation mechanic, and he basically takes a look all over your airplane to make sure you don't have any corroded control linkage or cracks in your wing spar or any of that stuff, right? And they say that you should always take the A&P mechanic up for the first check ride after the annual. That he should be in the plane with you. And the reason for that is, if he's in the plane with you, he's less likely to forget to put bolts in place. If it's his ass on the line, if he's going up with you, having the plane lose a big important part is not academic to him. He's got skin in the game. And there's something to be said for that. So that's the kind of thing I would like to see for the FAA. Okay, well, I've got a right angle I have to post, and it's not a bad outing tonight. What do we get? 237? Yeah, it's close enough. Wesley Bruce says, I talked to Elon in Second Life 30 years ago. You're a brave man, Wesley, bigger man than I am. To admit that you were involved with Second Life is courage and confidence that I just don't have. Okay, well, anyway, I think that'll do it. So, as usual, this show is made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com who keep the lights on here, and we hope to have a bunch of new members in the not-too-distant future, but I can't ask for new money until I put up new content, so that's where that is. That wall's getting painted tomorrow with the super black, and that should solve my lighting problems, which have been dogging me. The Tetrarch of Apathy says, I've been mostly lurking. God bless all, and good night. Well, bless you too, Tetrarch. Thank you. That's an awful cool name. Thanks to all of you for being here. Thanks as always for the viewers on YouTube and Twitch, and we will see you guys on Monday night right here at your very own Stratosphere Studio. So we'll see you then. Okay, YouTube. Now we're going to do another 2 hours. We're going to have some fun now that we put the dweebs and the losers to bed. Nope, time's up. Never mind. Just kidding. Excuse me. We'll see you guys also on Monday night. Take care.